And Middleton, lovely to see you, mate.
What really shits me about business is making those tough decisions. And money does funny things to people.
Yeah.
Not only money, percentages. I think having a mentor in the business space, what separated me from continuing to make these bad investments, continuing to make these bad mistakes.
You're new into startup. How many egos have you I mean, there's egos in TV, right?
You know, you're only as good as the team around you. And I've heard that my whole career.
But when it starts to go wrong, the founder particularly comes in with hero mentality.
I'd seen people do it and do it badly and get their $50,000 check or their $20,000 check and that's it.
Do not be a control freak in business, because I think that will trip you up.
Maybe a little bit.
This Could Be So Good is a show about what it really means to build a business. It's proudly brought to you by The Pillars, a private members club located in Sydney CBD for innovators to connect, and the award-winning Ben Buckler Whiskey, because some of the best conversations happen over good whiskey.
And Middleton, lovely to see you, mate. Thanks for coming along.
Lazar, always good to see you, Steve.
Do you call him Lazar?
Well, do you know what? There's a thing between the media people. I'm great friends with James Tobin, and he always says, "Let's call Lazar. Let's call Lazar." I've done the what was it? The Great Outdoors with him on Channel 7. And I think he's got something for you, mate. I think he might.
It's not that sort of podcast. It's not that sort of podcast. It's not Perfect Match, or it's not a dating show.
Well, and it's just stuck in my head.
I like Lazar. I might start calling you Lazar.
Okay, but you two, but that's it.
That's it. No, Larry, listen, I'll go back to Larry.
No, it's too late now.
Only people I can't beat in a fight. You're welcome. You can call me Lazar.
No,
mate, we're here to talk about business, and we got so many questions for you. We really do. But let's kick off with Resub.
Yeah.
This is a really important one for you, but we start the podcast each time with hearing people's elevator pitch, because we think you've probably said that 10,000 times.
Yep.
So that's where we kick off.
Okay.
Do you remember the
first
phrase?
One. Not the one now, the first one.
Yeah. So Resup, resupplying the heart, body, and mind with the vitamins and minerals so you can function at your optimal. Now,
That's it.
It's shortened, but that's the first ever one. And now Resup is military jargon for resupply.
Oh, didn't know
So
that.
that's why when I say Resup, resupplying the heart, body, and mind with the vitamins and minerals that we're deficient in, so you can function at your optimal. Bit of a mouthful.
But that's all right. It's a
I think
long
that's
elevator
good.
ride.
Yeah.
24 floors, right?
There you go, mate. To the top, Steve. To the top.
Mate, what shits you about business?
Oh, I didn't see that question come in.
No, do you know what? It's one of those, because business is so hard and you're always fine-tuning it. You're always having to make those tough decisions. But what really shits me about business is making those tough decisions, especially when you've got family involved or you've got close friends involved, which you tend to do. You know, business, you tend to go, oh, listen, my family member's got a great idea. You know, a good friend of mine might have a bit of investment to do. And that's what shits me the most, is the relationships that could be fractured or could fall apart when you start to get into business with family or friends. Does that make sense?
Have you done a lot? I'll tell you why I asked that question. I have had quite a few different ones, and I've gone into business with friends. And you go in, and I remember sitting in front of the lawyers, and you're about to do your shareholders agreement, and you go, we don't need this. Like, we've been friends forever. We don't need this. This is what we need. And the lawyer's like, you need to do it. Like, don't want to do it. Anyway, you do it. 7 years later, disaster. For whatever reason, and I can go into that story another time, but I still now don't speak, and it pains me, to the gentleman he was my best man. I was his best man. We are godfathers of each other's children. We don't speak. If he sees me in the street, he will actually he won't even register that I'm there. I'll say hello, like nothing. So it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So I have always now advised against it. You sounds like you've done it a couple of times. How's that going?
Do you know what? It's one of those, and that's why I say it shits me, because, you know, with family, you can't really get away from that. You know, it's a case of, right, you try and work around it, but then is it benefiting the company? Is it benefiting the team? Is it benefiting the brand? And then you've got to sort of make that decision. And I find myself, when it comes to family, that I'm trying to push them, like push a square, peg into a round hole, for example. But with friends, it is, if it goes wrong, it goes drastically wrong. And I've had the same, just sign this document, protect yourself. And I'm like, no, I don't need that. But now, due to certain experiences that I've had, I always make sure that everything's out in black and white. There's signatures on the, everything's signed. All the dots, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. Because, like you said, later on down the road, and money does funny things to people. Yeah. Not only money, percentages. When you start off with certain percentages, that does funny things to people as well, because ultimately percentages equals money.
What about this? I was talking to a founder the other day who said he didn't want to go in with friends and family in the start, right? Because he'd heard all these stories. So he didn't. But there was this huge exit. And all the friends and families aren't talking to him now anyway, because they could have turned their 50 grand into $500,000. So it's like it's this no win thing.
There's never a win as a founder. We've talked about this. It's all down. All down.
That's it. But you're right as well, because the moment you think to yourself, right, I've got this idea. I'm going to really encapsulate it. I'm going to invest. I'm in a position where I can invest. I'm going to keep it to myself. Then all of a sudden, you've got the fallout of exactly what you just said, Larry.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me about it? Why didn't you give me that opportunity? I've got a bit of money. I could have put it in this, but the moment that you do go put it into this, and it's like, well, people are expecting their money straight away, or a return of interest rate. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. You got to let it grow. You got to grow with it, and you got to give it time before you can actually just start pulling the rug as such.
You're blinded with family and friends.
Yeah,
there's no question. You've got the biggest blind spot ever.
But why do we do it? That's the thing, It's
because
like,
we're humans.
Yeah,
humans do this.
That's what we do.
I know, but then we just put ourselves in a whole world of pain, because I'm the same, and I, not that I haven't got the heart, but it's you could potentially, like you said, with your friendship, ruin a whole family sort of line due to a business that didn't work out.
And what about, so that's the financial investment. I want to know this from both of you. Yeah. What about just the family investment? Just your wife supporting you? Like, I'm coming home, I'm trying to explain to Sylvie the 10 meetings that I had today. And she's terrific and she can get a grip on most of that. But you're taking the whole family along for the ride, aren't you, as a startup, as a founder? Have you found, because there's been a few different businesses you're involved in, and you go all in, we know that.
I think you have to, you can't, especially with your wife, with your partner, because you talk about teamwork, you talk about business. The ultimate teamwork is at home. If it's good at home, then it's normally good in business. It's good at work, and don't get me wrong, they come hand in hand. But if one suffers, the other tends to suffer. But more so on the family side. So I think it's important that you get family buy-in, i.e., wife. If you're living at home, maybe your parents. But for us, Larry, and I don't know about you, Steve, but I think the buying from the wife just makes it so much easier. They've got your back, the support elements there. When you've had a tough day at the office or something hasn't gone right, there's a sounding board there for you. It's sort of an external sounding board, which I think is really important.
Yeah. How have you found that?
I think, it's a good. I think my wife at the beginning of my journey, if you like, before we had kids, she had a job that she traveled all over the world. So she often wasn't around. So she wasn't so much involved, which you'd think would be better. It wasn't better because she didn't understand when she was involved. These days, and look, like with this place here, my wife's actually really involved. And probably as I've gotten older, I've got her more involved in the businesses than I ever did before. And that has improved our relationship tenfold.
But has she wanted to get involved, or have you overtly sort of pushed that her way?
That's a good question. Maybe we should ring her.
Yeah.
Can we find a friend?
Maybe you should host the podcast.
Don't embarrass
She might even be around here.
She won't answer like my wife when I need her.
We'll watch the comments when we release this. She'll put something in. No, I think she wanted to be more involved. I think we sat down and talked about it because we've had lots of ups and downs because of all the businesses that I've started. I've got a question for you. What about egos, right? You've come initially in your career from a world of massive egos, but at the same time, I would imagine that as you went through your career to the higher ranks, those egos were tapered a little because there's become some more, I guess, I don't know what the right word is, but I think people, they seem to grow up a lot more when you get to those top levels you got to, and it's less about ego and more about team. But then you go back to startup world, which you've done now, and there's more egos here and probably not justified ones than anywhere I've ever seen. How have you found that? Because it's quite different.
You're right. In the military, it's, we're the best unit. We're the best fighting force. We're better than, you're competing against other army units or other military units within the United Kingdom. So there is that element of ego where, you're always being told that you're the best unit. You're always being told that you're the best support element or whatever it may be. So the egos are super high. And I realized that even when I got into the special forces, and it was tapered a bit, but in the special forces, I would say that it's a confidence ego. You know you're the best of the best. You've reached the top of the ladder. You've got nothing to prove.
Not a dickhead ego.
Not a dickhead ego. You've got nothing to prove. You're not talking about the job all the time because you're actually doing the job. So I suppose the ego is still very much there. And if used correctly, I think that it's a very handy thing to have. But like you said, when you go back down into the real world and especially into business, and you've heard it all before. You're long in the tooth, Steve. It's like I've heard it all, but just by a conversation whether that's going to transpire, whether someone's real. But when you first get into it, you're like, what? You've got this proof of funds, you can do this, you can do that, and it's all ego driven. It just, they wear the suits, they wear, they walk in the right way, they've got their sort of corporate suit on, and I fell into that trap very early on, and I made a lot of mistakes, invested a lot of money, for me at the time, that was purely ego driven, and it taught me a lesson about ego and about actually, really having a mentor. I think having a mentor in the business space was really what separated me from continuing to make these bad investments, continuing to make these bad mistakes. It's actually listening to someone, especially from myself being at the top of the military chain. You could have that sort of ideology of I've been there, I've done it, I don't need to listen to anyone, but they're completely two separate worlds, the business world and the military. They couldn't be more separated. So egos, I've been tripped up by a lot of egos. I've actually failed because of my ego as well, if I'm being honest.
Surely we all have.
Something that you just have to keep in check and you have to keep an eye out for.
What about you? Before you go on, what about you? You're new into startup. How many egos have you? There's egos in TV, right?
I'm not from TV. I'm good at this shit.
That's not good into your one.
Come on. There's got to be some sort of.
I told Steve I wasn't going to mention the gold Logie this time.
Every time. You said last time I asked you about it, which I didn't.
I mentioned that, and the reason why I mentioned it is because you can't help. But it's like you being the best presenter in the TV.
He's got it on him, He's got it with
us. You can't. I don't care who you are. It can't help but push some kind of ego out there where you're just like, I have to be a bit. I just have to tread a little bit carefully here.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's all about. It's all about experience. It's about maturity, like you mentioned, Steve. But it must be hard sometimes, to.
Well, ego is funny in TV because you do have to be a certain sort of character to stand up there and do what we do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I've always tried. I started as a young reporter. I started in the newsroom as a reporter, and one of my roles was to interview people in the entertainment world.
Yeah.
And I saw so many dickheads and so many wankers, and I think in the early days for me, I remember consciously thinking, "Wow, if I ever become that." I'm never. Yeah. If I'm on that side of the camera, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And I've tried. I haven't had to work really hard at it. I think it's just who I am. But I've tried seriously not to let ego get in the way. Yeah. But I can see in business it's very, very different. Like it's really
particularly startups.
Particularly startups.
And what do you mean different?
Because there needs to be an element of confidence and even a little bit of narcissism when you walk into a boardroom. And because I have to up myself, I'm walking into a room where people don't believe that I'm in business because I'm this TV wanker, right? So now I have to go, I kind of do understand a little bit. I understand the brand equity that I'm putting into the business and the marketing upside to that and all these bits and pieces. But people expect, I think, because we're talking to people who have been in business for a long time. You've been in business for a long time. So when TV wanker guy walks in with no idea, you know, I'm on double duty or triple duty, pedaling twice as hard to try and get a foothold in that.
Well, that's how I feel with you two, right? You're both media giants, TV shows left, right, and centre coming out of everywhere with you two. This is me sitting in the middle.
You're doing all right so
the
far.
most successful businessman amongst us all.
We don't know that. We don't know that.
But let's just go back to, because you touched on you've let ego bring you unstuck a couple of times. I want to know about at least one of those occasions. Talk us through what happened there, because you seem to everyone to be like a man who is in control all of the time.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Steve's laughing because he probably knows, is trying or wanting or needing to be in control all the time. It's draining. It's damaging to your mental well-being, let's call it. And it's unsustainable if you're looking for growth or longevity in any business. When you try to micromanage, when you try and control a situation that you think you know everything about, but there's SMEs around you. You know, it's about getting the right team around you that you can just, you know, delegate and go, right, this is your area of expertise, away you go. But with myself, this was years ago, having just left the special forces, jack of all trades, you know, I could do everything on the battlefield, you know, nothing fazed me, to trying to relate or translate that into business. I just kept hitting a ceiling every single time. And then all of a sudden, you know, you've got people leaving left, right, and center. You know, the company hasn't even kick-started, you know, the startup hasn't even started. We got so close to it. And then, you know, it's like, right, we're so close. This is what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden you look around and you're by yourself. And it's all due to ego, and also wanted to control absolutely everything. It's something that I really had to get a grip on and say to myself, and you know, you're a newbie to this. You know, you've left the special forces. Don't think you've come out at the same level. And you're just changing from balcony to balcony. No. You're going down all these flights of stairs, and you might be starting on the first floor if you're lucky. And I think that's that. And again, just with get into fitness in gym, you know, in the gym industry, you know, people straight away, oh, of course I can run a gym. Yeah, what do I, you know? But then you look at the back end of things and how things need to be ran. I couldn't do that. I had not a clue. And it was a good startup gym in London that I was supposed to run. Again, brand equity, put my name to it, et cetera. But yeah, that control freak inside me ruined.
How did you get rid of it? I still struggle with this.
Yeah,
I know I struggle with it. I'm aware of it, and I still struggle with it. How do you deal with it? What do you do? How do you push past?
I talk a lot. I communicate, and I make sure that, again, going back to family and friends, you know, I try and now just keep them out of business. Because I try and get the right person for the right job. It's like everything else, Steve, and you'll know this, Larry, the team behind you when you're doing your media stuff. You know, you're only as good as the person that brings you your coffee to perk yourself up in the morning. You're only as good as the person that actually gets you to work. You know, you're only as good as the team around you. And I've heard that my whole career. But going into business, I found out that that's so true. You know, if you can have SMEs within certain roles where you can delegate and just let them be and let them get on with things, that's the way forward. That's where I found that a growth in business actually happens when I'm like, right, actually I'm going to have to hand that over. And it's only through trial and error, Steve, that I've done it. And my startups have been smallish, you know, a couple $100,000 investment. They're small businesses, going on to bigger businesses with Resup, having to go into the 7-figure sort of investment. But, yeah, just through looking around and going, wow, not one business has got off the ground here. Where's it gone wrong? And it's a case of, right, actually, I need to let go of that control.
That's a fun conversation with yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. But it is, you know, all of a sudden, and you can imagine you've got the figures in your head already. You know, you're spending the money. You're doing the, you know, and it's all there. But then when you can't let go of it, it's like, who's supposed to grow that side of the business? Who's supposed to take charge of that? You know, when it goes wrong, you know, is it all on me? Is it it gets too much.
Have you ever thought about just walking away from stuff? I know that's not in your nature, but plenty of startups, plenty of founders would have hit that wall and just thought, I can't do. I got no more money.
They do. Huge
I got no more
amounts.
money.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the majority.
Do you
right?
know the stats that they say a lot, and you might know this as well, because you look like somebody who does a lot of research into things.
Yeah, I do.
Most startups that fail for money never fail for money. In fact, very few startups fail because of money, like tiny amounts, like 5%.
Yeah.
It's the founder either has a mental breakdown of some sort and they give up, or the product was just completely the wrong product. But it's almost never running out of money. That's what everyone says, because it denounces everyone's accountability, right? No one's accountable. If it was money, it was the person who funds us. That was their fault. But it's actually, if you actually delve into it, and they've literally released this just recently, it's hardly any at all. It's almost always giving up.
Gee, that's interesting. And the mental health concept, right? Because everyone's so focused on that now.
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
we're talking about it all of the time. But I guess 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that wasn't the case.
No one talked about it at all.
And it is, isn't it? It's the pressure.
Yeah.
And also, like I said, money does funny things to people, not only from a perspective of having it, but of owing it, of putting that investment in. It's like, once you get into that moment where you see that things aren't working, then the alarm bells ring.
Panic.
It's like, where do I get my money back? Everyone sort of, this is what I talk about the team. Everyone sort of sprints off to their corner from where they came from. And then all of a sudden, you've got no business.
Yeah.
But it is, that mental health issue side of things.
And often it's the control
huge.
thing, like you just talked about. It's that when it starts to go wrong, the founder particularly comes in with hero mentality. I'm going to come in, and they're obviously, all the people who work for me, they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. So I'm going to take all their jobs off them, and I'm going to save the whole business, which is when it usually dies.
Yeah.
And they haven't learnt that lesson. I think that's a really common thing.
And what do you think, Larry, from a brand equity thing? Because a bit like myself, especially now when I do business, I bring that sort of that brand side of things, that's going to sell the product, that's going to help, push it, it's going to help the marketing. How it's hard to put that in, knowing that could be damaged as well, right? Knowing that something's not going to work, and it's not only going to not work here, but it's going to damage my brand thereafter.
I've said no to everything for 40 years.
Yeah,
I haven't done a brand endorsement, and I've been asked. I used to do Price is Right. It was a big show, right?
Yeah.
And I got asked for everything, for cars and fast food and this and that. And I said no to everything because it didn't feel right to me. It didn't fit. But then when I sort of happened across this age 60, like 60, there's a whiskey. It just felt like it wasn't that bad.
But this is yours as well. This wasn't
mine.
someone else's.
Right.
This was yours.
That's right. I didn't want to stick my face on something.
So do you think you were protecting your brand?
I knew I'd only get one shot at it. I'd seen people do it and do it badly and get their $50,000 check or their $20,000 check and that's it. Because then other brands are like, oh, you did that stupid piece of shit.
Yeah.
So it never really interested me, and I would just automatically have my management say no to anything that would come along. And there's people who've seen value in because Price is Right was, come on down. So any tourism authority would love that, or the Price is Right, any retail chain.
Oh God, you were a dream, weren't you? I hadn't thought about it. You were a dream.
The Wheel of Fortune, it's a car ad. So I said no to everything. But this, when it came along, it felt like it's from my heart. The Ben Buckler is where I grew up at Bondi. It's like there's a lot about me in that. But as we have that conversation too, Steve, I'm mindful that Ant and I have got this fantastic leg up, right? So I'm making calls and we're getting in to see people because I'm that guy from TV. And I know that there are hundreds of little distillers who would go, how do we do that? How do we get into these meetings and how do we get this leg up? So we've got to talk to other founders and other startups who don't have this big media personality in front of it who can literally kick doors in. Because there'd be people listening going, well, we don't have that.
There's the other side of that though. There's the expectation that comes with that as well. I would imagine that when you see having no brand equity, when you see something with a brand, particularly a person on it, there's an expectation that it is good or it's amazing or it represents them. So you guys have to make sure that there's no sort of letdown to your fans almost. You feel there's probably a responsibility that on top of the pressure you've already got of actually making something work, you've got to make it work even more, because like you're right, it can damage your brand. But do you both feel that expectation is greater on you because of that?
Well, I definitely do, because I'm at an age where I won't recover now. I'm 60. So if I was doing startup stuff and looking at this stuff when I was 20 or 30 or 40, I could recover financially, professionally.
Yeah.
But now this is my last kick. What I'm doing now is my last shot, probably at business and probably at television as well. So I'm very mindful of where I'm at in my lifespan. So this makes sense to me, because it's like,
absolutely.
Whiskey's an old man boring drink, but we're making it fun, and I'm really happy with that messaging. It's like your resup messaging. You can tell it with pride and tell it with confidence and believe in it too.
Yeah, because you've built it from the ground up, right? Yeah. I'm very much like you, Larry. I've turned down at the disgust of my agency. I've turned down some big deals because I didn't want to put my face just to a brand or that. My deals have always been, I'm happy to do this. However, down the line in the contract, there's got to be growth with myself. So for example, if it was a clothing brand, there's got to be, I'm happy to promote it, and it needs to fit in with the sports active side of my brand. But after a year, I want to do an at Middleton sort of brand, a range, shall we call it. It's the same with footwear, and you always get to that point where they go, well, let's just see how it goes. And I'm like, no. It's got to be in the contract.
Contracts.
Yeah, exactly. Back to contract, which I think is so important, Steve. It's the case of, no, it needs to be in the contract, because I know what's going to happen. A year's going to come by, which has happened before. Oh, let's do another year. Okay, yeah, just sign up. What, next year we're going to do the right? Yeah, no worries. Yeah. And then it goes on, and before you know it, they've exhausted you. They've used you for what they wanted. Yeah. And you're gone. So Larry, that's very, I love that approach. And I've taken that approach for the last few years, because I learned, very quickly, which was very fortunate for me. So I'm the same. I turn down everything unless it fits and it's a natural fit, and I believe that I can bring my experience and value to the table. Then I won't just put my face to it.
Yeah. Let's talk about resup. Or did you have something? You had something. Did you have something?
Oh. No, I just want to go back to Larry, because you said about, which I think is really interesting, because you said that you waited and waited and waited and waited. Was there an element of fear that it would damage your brand if you took something? Was it?
Yeah,
because that's control, right? It's you're controlling that, going, right, I don't want to damage my brand, therefore I'm not going to take anything.
Yeah, and I want it to be the shows I would do. The shows that I've done over the years have been very family friendly and done with honesty and integrity and affection for my audience and stuff. So I never wanted to upset that apple cart at all, ever, in any way. I've never chosen a football team on TV, because I didn't want to upset whoever wasn't following that football team.
Really cautious. I mean, that's
for all of my time. Like back in Price is Right days.
Yeah, very neutral. Sort of like,
always same politically.
Yeah,
and just because I don't want to. If I say I love the Sydney Swans, I don't want the people from Geelong going, he loves it. Honestly, it's like that. So, but I've always taken that side, very, very seriously.
Yeah, good.
And I think now it pays off, because I'm a happy guy, has been in the business for 40 years and still here.
Absolutely. Still here, mate. I think that's key.
Yeah. Yeah, is the fear there with this, or not so much, because this is not a brand? This is you. This is
the last chapter.
You didn't do it. You didn't do it for a brand. You did it for fun, and it turned into a brand, right?
I made this for 60 friends, 60 bottles for 60 friends for my 60th birthday. This was not meant to be a business.
Yeah,
in no way, shape, or form. Then it won that gold medal in San Fran. I put that on Insta, and it became a business, and it continues to be a business, and it's now growing at a rate that I've brought in people who know what they're doing.
Yeah,
as we make a big run in the business, so it's really exciting.
It is exciting,
but it's nothing. I couldn't have done any of that.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I couldn't have done any of that. But sorry, I'm not back to you. Like, seriously.
No, it's interesting.
It is. I love that story. I think it's such a cool story,
because I'm in the midst of my sort of media career. So it's great to hear from, like you said, not on the back end, but you're in your latter days where you can now, make those decisions and roll with them. So it's
when I won the
good to
Logie,
know,
and you
mate.
were there,
It's
we were
good
on the
to-
same
yeah,
table.
Yeah, we were.
When
yeah.
I won the Logie, all I could think about was, this is going to be good for the whiskey.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
You should have went out with a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, you should. Did you
missed
say
the
that?
trick there, mate. You missed the trick
Should
there.
have said it. And did you mention it in the speech? So yeah, tell us what, you are, as you said, you're in the middle of your media career.
Yeah.
You have turned down some big deals. You've obviously done this yourself, very much like Larry. What drove you to do that? Because, you've got a lot going on.
So this was about 3 years ago when, do you know Prime?
Yeah.
Prime was...
I read all about that this weekend.
yeah.
There was some interesting articles this weekend.
Really interesting. And that was all kicking off. And the company came up to me and said, Ant, you're all about fitness and, energy. You're a very energetic person. Let's jump on this hype. So I sort of heard them out. I said, what have you got? And I looked at the drink and Prime. This drink was called Power. And I looked at it and I thought, one, it sounds like a bit of a rip-off, but I get what you're doing. Two, when I looked at it, the sugars in it, the caffeine, the taurine, and they were offering a lot of money for me just to put my face to it. They're ready to rock and roll, get it out there, away we go. And I looked, I said, it's full of sugar, it's full of caffeine, it's full of taurine. I said, I don't agree with any of that and I don't take any of that. Throughout my whole military career, we've never had supplements. It's a case you need to be self-sustainable. What happens if you're in the field or on operations? You haven't got your creatine, you haven't got your protein, you haven't got your energy drinks there.
Or your prime.
It's all your prime. So I've always been sort of quite neutral like that. And so I said, look, I'm out. But at the time, I was speaking with the scientist, a great lady here. I was here in Australia, in Sydney. I was speaking to the scientist, and she said, "Well, what do you want from a drink, Ant? If you could make your own drink, because I got the scientists in and everything to break down everything. If I was going to put my name to it, I needed to know." She said, "What would you like in a drink?" I said, "Something that's healthy, something that's got no sugar in it, something that's going to up your energy levels." I said, what keeps your energy levels, high? He said, well, vitamins and minerals. When you sustain your vitamin and mineral levels, that gives you your energy, sustainable energy throughout the day. So I said, well, what are we deficient in? And then she went on to, magnesium, potassium, zinc, and then all your vitamins, your Ds, your Es, et cetera, et cetera. I said, is there a key ingredient or a key mineral that we're missing, that we're really deficient in? And she said, yes, selenium. Now, selenium's a trace mineral. And what that means is the body only requires micro doses of it.
Right.
So it's not like it's you have a micro dose of it, but majority of people, especially women, are super deficient in selenium. And it doesn't help with your muscles or your tendons or anything like that. It helps with your organs. Right. So it helps with your heart, it helps with your thyroid, your kidneys. So it's a different twist on an energy drink where you drink it. Yeah, it's gonna ignite your muscles and it's gonna rehydrate your body. So I literally sat down with her, and this was when I was filming SAS on and off. I was like in country, out of country. Every time I was in country and filming or preparing for SAS before we started filming, I'd just spend an hour or two with her. And over the course of 3 or 4 months, we just really broke down what vitamins we need, what minerals we need. But not only that, I got quite geeky with it, because I said, look, the drink really must, benefit the individual, but then the drink must benefit itself. What vitamins benefit minerals and what minerals benefit the vitamins.
You went super geeky.
Super geek. So for example, vitamin D, it's very hard to absorb, but with magnesium helps absorb vitamin D. So we sort of came up with these concoctions of the vitamins and minerals that we're deficient in. That's along with the selenium, which is a trace mineral, which isn't in any drinks apart from Restart. Actually, tell a lie, I think there's one drink where selenium's in it, but not the RDA that we put in it. We put maximum RDA in our drink, so you get the full benefit out of 1 or 2 bottles. And then lo and behold, I had this drink. And again, it was just a hobby, right? I had this drink and in my hand, and I thought to myself, well, I've actually got a drink now. What am I going to call it? How am I going to get? How am I going to sell it? I know nothing about the food industry or the drink industry, and I just gave it to my brother. My brother lives here in Sydney. I said, Pete, whilst I'm gone, I said, tell me what the family think about this drink. And my brother gets really geeky with things as well. So he's like, well, let me look into sales, let me look into manufacturing, into production, et cetera, et cetera. And lo and behold, before I knew it, I had these drinks in my hand, done exactly what they said on the tin. And as I put them out for tasters. So I put them out to professional tennis players, to golf players, to your athletes that needed to focus, because selenium obviously helps with brain fog. It helps.
So talk about selenium quickly. Where do we get it naturally, and why don't we have it now?
In walnuts, it's
because no one eats walnuts anymore.
Unique. Yeah, such a ultimately one of the reasons, because a lot of people don't eat nuts.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why we're so deficient in it is because of that, because you can only get it out of certain foods, and the walnut being the main food that you get it from. You know, especially nowadays with nut allergies and stuff like that, you won't get nuts on an aeroplane, for example, because just in case, Larry, you suffer from a nut allergy and you sat next to me. Yeah. So it was, when I've done the research on that as well, it's like, well, this is really good timing, because, you know, if you can't get it in your food, then you need to top it up, and you can top it up and resub. So that was a great selling point as well. But when we actually gave it out to people, they actually said that it really helped with their brain fog. So when I gave it to my brother and he gave it out to tennis players and golf players, he came back and he started laughing. He went, and I said, I don't know what you've created. He said, the tennis player that I gave it to, he said he was so focused for like an hour and a half, he couldn't miss a shot. And he started laughing. He went, we're going to sell the shit out of this. You know what I mean? And I went, what are you laughing? What are you laughing about? I said, that's exactly what the selenium's there for. I said, we've put the maximum amount that we can put, you know, the daily recommendation. I said, and it does exactly that. I said, it's for your organs, it's for brain fog, it's for clarity of mind. So once I knew that it worked as well, and then I started taking it, and I took it for 2 weeks solid, came off of it for a couple of days, and I could just notice only a tiny bit of brain fog, you know, happened to be sort of hyper-focused in our career.
So had you not tried it before then?
Yes, I obviously created it. I was trying it.
With the taste, but I mean, it's pretty sustained.
It wasn't until my brother came back to me and he said to me, you know, at the early stages, he went, "It really works." I'm like, "Well, listen, I'm gonna
try it.
I'm gonna try it." But because I live in the UK and I recently moved to the UAE, to Dubai, it was not accessible for me. I couldn't get it because you couldn't just take it back and forth. And then I called it resup, because resup is military jargon for resupply. When you get an ammo resup, you know, when you get a rations resup or a stores resup, you know, it's a resupply. Basically, if you imagine, you know, you're in the desert, a rations resup gets parachuted out, and I thought, you know what, let's use that word of play. And because it replenishes the heart, body, and mind, you know, with the selenium in it. So that's why the resup, I put the 3 instead of the E. So R3SUP.
I won't tell you how I read it to Larry when I first saw it this morning. I'm not going to. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're not going to talk about it.
I want to know now. I want to know.
Just, we're not going to talk about it.
So there's that element of the heart, body, and mind, which the drink does. It resupplies the heart, body, and mind with the vitamins and minerals that we're deficient in. And selenium, the reason why we could put it on the bottle, the heart, body, and mind, is because the selenium does resupply the mind with what is needed.
Steve, let me ask you this. Having just listened to
Are we interviewing him?
a spiel about an energy drink for 8 minutes and being really, really compelling.
Yes.
It's a good story, right?
It's a good story.
So how important is it that a founder has the passion and the ability to deliver a story? It's just, I didn't feel like it was a pitch. I felt like it was a story, and yet your tentacles were all over it, like from start to finish.
Yeah,
that's a really important way to be able to deliver a message, isn't it?
I mean, everything is essentially a story. Like if you want to engage with any human being
how you tell
about anything, you have to be able to tell a story well. Now, if you're a founder and you can't tell a story, that's okay. You need to find someone, as we talked about, you can't control everything. You need to find someone who can tell your story for you, because if you can't tell your story, your business won't survive. I genuinely believe that. It won't even get off the ground to some degree. Prime's a great example. You know, Prime's going down, I think 70% drop in sales. There's no story with Prime. They just targeted kids with a high sugar drink that gave them lots of energy and charged them a lot of money.
And they had millions for marketing.
Yeah, and millions for marketing.
Yeah.
That's not a story, right?
No.
And that's what 3 years in, it's just falling through the floor.
Yep.
The story is everything. And the story is the elevator pitch, which is why we started. But I think what's important as well is that story continues to evolve like all stories. So it's not a fixed story.
Yeah.
As a founder, you need to be able to adjust and change, not change your story, but let your story evolve in front of you.
I like that. That's true.
I know you're very, very aware of you being sort of this de facto mentor for people and guru and business guru now. And so how many books now?
7.
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, 7.
I'm gonna,
Five non-fiction, 2 fiction.
What are the fiction ones?
Mallory. It's a character called Mallory, who's, I suppose, is my alter ego. No. And the first one is called Red Mist, which talks about the stuff that I couldn't talk about in a non-fiction type of way, because everything that I do is signed off by the military in the UK. I'm bound to the Secrecy Act. So anything military, whether it's the SAS show, whether it's writing a book that might have a military paragraph in it, they have to sign everything off.
Wow.
So Mallory, my 2 fiction books, I can just get a little bit looser with them.
You're expressing the things you can't express in a non-factual way.
In a non-factual way, in a storytelling way. But, you can tell that it almost feels real. If you know me and you've read my books and you know about Middleton and you pick up that book, you'd like to think that it's me that I am Mallory, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I want to tell you a quick story. I was going to, and I put this on Instagram the other day. I was going to Melbourne for a really important meeting for this, and it was one of the early meetings, and I knew that I was so far out of my depth because I can do TV, but business stuff, I'm so new to this, right? Mm-hmm. And I knew there were going to be lots of questions about this and that and the modeling and the marketing and all these things. And I was at the airport and I was shitting myself. I really, really was. And I was just standing in the bookstore and I saw your book, Zero Negativity. And I could hear your voice. I know you well. I could hear your voice and you were looking at me with those eyes. But
I remember you texted me.
It turned my day around 100% because I've gone, okay, fuck, I'm not going to this meeting all cowering and scared and frightened of this, full of stress. I'm going in, I've got a great product. It's a great thing. Everyone's interested in it. And I'm going with zero negativity. And I carried that with me for the day. And I barged into the meeting feeling like that. It's funny, isn't it, those words? And these people who buy your books, and there are millions of them, rely so heavily on your words and your tours as well, obviously.
Yep.
How hard is it for you? Because I know you're a lovely guy. I know you're a good human being. How hard is it for you when people come up to you at your shows or your book signings with a heartbreaking story, something hasn't gone quite right?
You've got to give them time to listen to them. You know, a lot of people, they don't give them the time.
A lot of people don't.
A lot of people don't. I always stay after my tours. I'm there for hours. My book signings, you know, they put 2 hours aside. I'm there for 4 hours because I think it's so important. If someone's read something that's ignited something within them, then not that they're owed an explanation, but they, you know, it's like that's helped them for that moment there. And now they need something else to take away so it can help them for the next couple of months, or maybe might be the next couple of years, might be the next couple of days so I believe, and talk about, you know, evolving things. I believe that, again, you know, my message has got legs, and, you know, I deliver it piece by piece. And I actually quite enjoy when people come up to me and they share their sufferings and their hardships and what they're going through, because I guarantee you that in a different type of way, whether it's in business, whether it's on the battlefield, whether it's growing up, I've been through something similar. And it's my way of giving back. And I really do believe that. I love giving back to people because not only does it, but it humanizes me as well. You know, it's a two-way thing. I always say this to people, it's a two-way thing, because them opening up to me makes me realize how far I've come, what I've done to overcome certain situations, how I process life and get through life is important for me to continue what I do. So it's, I actually really enjoy it. And before you know it, you've got someone, you're holding up the whole queue and someone's in tears, they've dried their tears, give you a big hug, and away you go. That's the reward that I get. Not standing up on stage, not them reading my books. that personal
Personal touch,
interaction,
yeah.
that you see a flick in their eyes or something that you said that's giving them that little bit of hope to push forward.
It's really interesting.
I love that.
It's a good book, that. I've read that book. Well, I actually listened to it because I like to listen to it.
Yep.
But it's a good book. I've got a question in terms of writing those books is an experience in itself, I would imagine. All the things you've done, and you just talked about your journey and the fact that you've experienced lots of different things on the battlefield in business. How, in your own words, would you describe how has Ant Middleton evolved?
Fully. You know, I dive boots on in the deep end. I don't know what's below there. You know, you can call me reckless if you wish, but it's more of a confidence. You know, I've done that my whole life. I've volunteered for things that maybe I shouldn't have volunteered for, but I've learned from that experience. You know, I'm not scared of failure.
Yeah,
failure doesn't even
line.
bother me. You know, when I look at something and it scares the hell out of me, I've learned to flip that fear into excitement. You know, I'm excited, not about the destination. I don't get carried away with the destination too much. It's the journey. What am I going to learn when I commit to this? Right. And even if I commit and it doesn't work out, a lot of people go, oh, that's a failed task or that's a failed objective. I commit and I go, right, what have I learned? Even if I step out and people deem it as a failure, I'm like, I've stepped into this new space. What have I learned? You know, what new things have I taken in? And I get everything out of the commitment that I make, not out of the man-made structure or the social constructs of you failed this, you're a failure. Yeah. Does that make sense? And I think that allows me to really commit to things. And that's why, you know, I suppose in the media, you know, they like to jump on your faults, they like to jump on your failures, but not your successes. And the more you try, the more you fail, right? And the more, you know, and because I have that sort of, I don't have that fear of failure, I'm always trying. I'm always trial and error with me, trial and error, and I learn, but I'm not scared to keep tripping up. I'm not scared to keep failing. And it puts a lot of people off, especially in our career, because it's like, oh, Ant Middleton's done this, or he's done this. And I'm like, listen, I've got a lesson out of it. I didn't go out to fail. I didn't go out to do this. And so I think that's my superpower is not giving a hell about failure.
And is that, do you see that?
Or my downfall.
We'll go with superpower.
As you say it out loud, are you clocking that as exclusively Ant Middleton sort of soldier military mindset, and that 98% of the population and maybe 90% of startup or founder mentality can't afford to be like that? Do you clock that?
Yes, they do, but I just don't give a shit, Larry.
Maybe we should have called the podcast I Just Don't Give a Shit.
We could have.
But you know what? No, it's not that I don't. It's of course I don't go out to fail. Of course I don't go out to upset people. Of course I don't go out to, you know, there's no malice in my approach or, you know, ill intent. I don't, there's, as long as I know that, then I can live with it. Because at the end of the day, I've got to live with a failure of a business.
And you do care. You do care. You just don't let it hold you back.
Yeah. And ultimately I do care, but I've got to live with that. Not everyone else, you know, and no one knows what it takes to, you know, a lot of people don't know what it takes to run a business. The investment, you know, with your brand, with yourself, with your family, with your money, with your finances, you know, what it takes to really start a business up, you know, it's a lot of sacrifice, right? And I'm very good at going, right, this is my sacrifice. It's not those of you can think what you want to think, but I'm going for it. If it
do you
feels
get the
right,
imposter syndrome? Do you get that?
Yeah, I think everyone does.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you seem like someone who wouldn't get it perhaps as much as others. Not because you don't give a shit, but because you do give a shit, but you don't let that hold you back.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. You've worded that right there, Steve. No, of course I do. Even when I get up on stage now, I've been on stage thousands of times. I've sold out, you know, hundreds of theatres and even arenas. But even now you get up on stage and people are grasping onto your every word.
Yeah.
You know, and of course I'm like, but I'm just telling you my life. And then I go back to saying, I'm just giving you the life experiences that I've been through, what I've tripped up on. So hopefully you won't do the same. So I sort of, that imposter syndrome, I sort of reverse engineer it to why I'm actually stood on stage. Am I stood on stage because I want the money? No. Yeah, the money's great. Don't get me wrong with it. It's part of business. But I'm stood on stage because I actually love telling my story. I've got so much to tell. I've lived 7 lifetimes and I'm 44, and I've got so much yet to do and so much yet to tell that as long as I know that in my heart of hearts, then I can live with it because I've got to live with it.
Yeah.
I've got a tattoo on my chest, Steve's sick of hearing about it. It says, if not now, when? And I see it every morning in the mirror and I go, right, today. Any of your tattoos mean anything more than any others?
There's a few.
Yes. A lot of them are military tattoos. So this is a full sail ship, which means that I've sailed through the equator. The old, when you sail with it, you flush the toilet and it goes the other way. That's all it's about, really.
I've heard that story. There's not many people who've actually done that.
No.
But are there any tattoos that would change the course of your day?
I've done that. Do you know what? I've got my children on my hands, which I like. I was never going to get my hands tattooed, but my children are on there because I do look at those a lot. And I'm very hands-on with everything. Yeah. I'm more of a hands-on person. That's got me to where I am today. So I love these tattoos here. These are all military tattoos. It says a soldier's grave. This is a bottle of Pusser's rum. It's not Ben Buckler, but it's Pusser's rum. So and the reason why it says it's meant to say a sailor's grave, but I was a soldier. A soldier's grave is because when you retired back in the day, they used to issue you a lifelong supply of Pusser's rum. And they used to say that soldiers and sailors used to drink themselves into an early grave.
Yeah, right.
So this
what a great concept.
Yeah. No.
Thanks for coming on with that.
Thanks for your service.
Cheers. So it was more out of respect for those that had served and that had sacrificed.
Yeah.
And it just most of this is a small frog. That's the crimson frog from the Special Boat Service. So that's actually a tattoo that only those who knew, if they saw that, they would give you the nod.
Don't fight you.
Yeah.
Don't fight that guy.
Don't stay away from that guy. Body bite your face off. No, he won't. So yes, but I think as well, it's just immersing yourself within that culture. You are a product, and it's the same with business. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but you're a product of your environment. If you surround yourself with a good team, you're gonna have good times. You surround yourself with good, positive people, then you're probably going to be positive. Probably going to have a positive. And the military, especially in my days, very much a tattoo drinking culture. You go out combat, lucky that you come back off of a tour alive, you've buried 5-6 mates, you've got to be saved up a bit of money, you're down the boozer, you're having a few beers, you're seeing what tattoos you can get, and normally they're memories of where you've been. And that's been in the military for centuries.
Yeah.
So my tattoos I'm a product of that military environment, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course you are. I mean, that was where you formed your young career, right?
Oh, that's where I forged myself. Yeah.
That's where you're the man you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Matt, we're nearly done. You're right.
All right.
So, mate, thank you for your time. But as we say goodbye, is there a message? Is there a line? Is there something important you'd like to say to people who are listening, who are maybe in the startup or the founder journey, and just you've written all the books, millions of words on it. If you were to pluck a few of those words out, put them in a sentence, for inspiration, for motivation, what would you say?
Surround yourself with the right people. It's hugely important. You can only get so far by yourself. A lot of people like to think that they can do it by themselves, but trust me, if you want growth, you want longevity, and you want a good business that you can IPO, sell in a few years, and make yourself, retire at an early age, then surround yourself with positive people and let go of that control element. Do not be a control freak in business, because I think that will trip you up.
Maybe a little bit.
A little bit. I think that's in us anyway.
Just trying to make myself feel better here.
No, but Steve, you're right, because I think that's why that's how we succeed in business, because we start that way.
Yeah.
I think it's better to start that way, being
then
a control
evolve.
freak, and then evolve
Yeah.
rather than not. But yeah, you're only as good as your team. And that comes from sort of the military mindset that I've been around. You know, when things go right, everyone's going to be there to celebrate, to cheers you. But when you know, things are starting to slide, have a look around you, and those people that are still there, gather them together and reattack the situation.
Mate, thank you very,
Love
very
that.
much. Really, really appreciate it.
Steve, cheers.
Pleasure.
Larry, always a pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure.
Laza.
To see you. Laza.